If you remember, a few weeks back, we planted up this garden in just a little over an hour. This garden bed has new perennial varieties for 2025 from our friends at Walter's Gardens. A lot of these are going to be your new proven winter perennials for 2025, and then also there'll be some other various perennials in here that are new introductions from Walter's Gardens. Let's go ahead and just take a look to see how they're doing. Some of these are past their bloom time, so some of them will be out of flower, some will still be in flower. But I think it's important, if you've watched that first video, to see how they're doing now. So let's go ahead and take a walk through this garden. This is a very new garden, and all of these perennials were grown in gallon-sized containers in the greenhouse. So really the best thing to do when you're planting up a perennial garden and looking to see like how it's doing is to give it one full year of growth and maturity, because it would be best if we saw these plants if they emerge naturally from the ground and were blooming at their natural bloom cycle. But a lot of these plants may be 4 or 5 weeks ahead of schedule just because they were in the greenhouse, kind of getting forced along because it was warmer in there. So let's take a look and see what's blooming. As you can notice, we lined this bed with Supertunias. So we have the Supertunia Mini Vista White and the Supertunia Mini Vista Ultramarine. The reason why we did this is this way we would know this bed would always have some color. Not knowing exactly how these perennials would be cycling, this is just giving us always that constant splash of color. Now somebody in the last video said, why did you plant purple? You can't even see them. You're kind of not wrong, but that is also why we planted white with them, because the white really makes that purple pop as you're looking down the rows. So they're doing well. We anticipate as the summer goes on, they'll probably get up to the edge of this bed and totally have these wood chips all covered. So we'll see how that goes. As long as we keep fertilizer and keep them watered, they're going to just continue to fill out this space. All right, so the first plant we have here that's got a little bit of bloom is the Penstemon Bejeweled Rose. This is going to be new in the Proven Winter catalog for 2025. And you can see it's got these beautiful rosy red blooms. This is a long blooming perennial, so there's a lot of spikes coming up. This will, when it's out in the landscape and coming out naturally, I would say we'll probably have anywhere 6 to 8, even maybe more weeks of blooms on these Penstemon plants. So those will be fun to watch next year as they come out and mature, just to see how long is that plant actually in bloom. We've got a phlox here, part of the Luminary series, which is the Proven Winners series of tall phlox. This is the Luminary Prismic Pink, a beautiful deep dark pink with a nice magenta eye. These plants have excellent mildew resistance, and I guess one tip when you're planting tall phlox is to give them some space. So the more airflow that can get around the plant, the better the mildew resistance they'll have. Or if you plant them tight together and plant them with other plants really tight together, that's limiting the airflow, and that also can kind of encourage mildew growth. So give them space when you plant them so that they have good airflow all around. Designer Threads is a new series of Coreopsis for Proven Winners, and these actually are available now on our website, gardencrossings.com. This one is the Designer Threads Heartstrings, and this features rich burgundy blooms with just a kiss of kind of whitish pale yellow on the edge. One thing we've noticed with these flowers is depending on how hot it is, they do kind of take on either more or less of the white edging. So heat can vary the color of that plant a little bit. Stokesia or Stokes Aster. This is one that we're really excited for. This is part of the Totally Stoked series, and this is called White Caps. Really large white flowers, and on some of them there's just a little touch of kind of a lavender blush pink coloration. But the really large flowers and the long bloom time of Stokes Aster is a good reason why you should add that to your garden, just because they're big, beautiful blooms that last for a long time. We also have some new hibiscus we'll be watching. These usually will bloom here in August in West Michigan in our Zone 6A garden. This particular one is Summerific All Eyes on Me, so we'll update you when that starts to bloom. Achillea Firefly Fuchsia. Firefly is the Proven Winner series of Achillea or yarrow, And this has beautiful fuchsia blooms. And you can see the flowers kind of take on a bicolor look. The new blooms are really a bright ruby red magenta color and our fuchsia color. And as the flowers start to age a little bit, they lighten up just a touch. This is fine. I'm okay with that. Some of the older varieties of Achillea really faded a lot, so there's a lot of variation. But this light variation of shades, I think actually makes the plant look really pretty. Also new Campanula, just a small little cute border plant, is the Campanula Mini Marvels. There's 3 different varieties in the Campanula series. Mini Marvels Midnight is the beautiful royal purple that we're seeing here. They're only about 8 inches tall by 8 inches wide, so a nice plant for a border or a rock garden because they just really don't take up a lot of space. Also a new one is the Delph, and that's kind of a lavender and white mix. Again, very compact in size and really pairs well with this series if you wanted to kind of plant all 3 varieties together. And then we have the white, and it looks like we actually got a Delph mixed in with the white. So the white as well, but just these cute little cup-shaped flowers that just really create interest along front borders of the garden. Agastache Guava Lava. This is Walter's Gardens introduction, and it's got nice kind of, I guess, guava colored flowers. This is a long blooming perennial that attracts hummingbirds, also known as a hyssop. And the nice thing with the Agastache is they have really a nice kind of an anise, if you're familiar with anise candy, a nice anise kind of scent to them. Liatris Lavender Glow Sticks, you can see that is a monster. And this one bloomed in the greenhouse already, so what we should probably do is just trim it back and see what happens, because it really doesn't look very pretty in the landscape right now. Obviously you can tell this is going to be a very, very tall Liatris. If this were to come out of the ground naturally, it would have better form than what we're seeing here in the landscape right now. So that would be one that next year we'll want to evaluate. How does it come up? How tall does it actually get? And does it have a nice tidy habit, or are we going to continue to kind of see this habit that we're currently seeing? As I mentioned, these are all trial plants. These are plants that are new introductions. We've never grown before. So this is kind of a learning garden for us. It's giving us a little insight on these new varieties, on what we may like about them, what we may not like about them. And this also helps us decide if this is a plant we may want to carry in our 2025 introductions. Coreopsis Designer Threads. This one is called Creamy Calico. The nice thing with these Coreopsis is they're deer resistant. So if deer are a problem for you in your garden, deer typically will stick away from Coreopsis. Creamy Calico features a nice soft buttery yellow edge with a burgundy center. So kind of a nice soft feeling color of Coreopsis. Also, we've got a phlox, part of the Garden Girl series, which is a Walter's Gardens introduction, Garden Girl, Fancy Girl. And the gardeners are confusing me because they're putting a Dream Girl tag in here as well. So now I have to verify if this is indeed Fancy Girl or if it is Dream Girl. So that will be something we'll have to put the verification information up on the screen for you. So these phlox here, these will get about 30 to 36 inches tall when they're mature. Kind of, again, a nice bright, not bubblegum, but kind of a fuchsia-ish pink color. Kind of a nice little white halo going on in the flowers. Nice clusters, big clusters of flowers. And again, these two have excellent disease resistance, making sure to keep them spread far enough apart in the garden so that they get that ample airflow all around the plant. A new sedum for 2025 is the Rock and Grow Midnight Sedum. The Rock and Grow series of sedum is a proven winner's introduction, and so far we're seeing that Midnight, as the name implies, it's showing off with very deep, dark, near black foliage, and it looks like this is going to have red flowers. So these flowers are a little ahead of schedule. Typically this would be blooming a little bit later in the season, but because these were grown in the greenhouse, they have about 4 to 6 weeks ahead of the outdoor natural bloom cycle. All right, so this one is saying Material Girl, but again, this and the other one are the same, so we'll make sure that we verify which variety it actually is. Another Coreopsis, part of the Designer Thread series, is Designer Threads Scarlet, which is a pure scarlet red Coreopsis. The nice thing too with these Designer Thread series is that they have really quite large flowers for this ribbony type foliage plant. So big flowers, lots of flower coverage, and just a big punch of color. All right, so as this garden was planted, we planted it with a little bit of symmetry. So one side kind of matches the other, or at least with similar plants. And here's a Stokesia. So on the other side it was white. Here we have Stokesia, totally stoked Riptide. So this is a 2-plant series as of now. Riptide features kind of a periwinkle blue flower, really large blooms. Honeybees, native bees are all over this plant right now. Nice long blooming habit. This here is a grouping of 3 plants. So it's not just one plant you're seeing there, there's 3, and it's just a nice mass of color. A 4th in the Designer Threads series, this is, let's see, what is this one called? Golden Needle. So Golden Needle features golden yellow blooms with a beautiful burgundy eye. And I think on this particular variety, you can really see the size of the flowers, how large they actually are. Coreopsis form a nice mounding type habit. They're about 24 or so inches tall, 24 inches wide. So just creating a beautiful mound of that golden foliage. Another phlox, part of the Proven Winner series. This is Luminary Pink Lightning. So another addition to that Luminary series. Now this is a beautiful, closer to, let's say, bubblegum pink. There's a little bit of maybe coral undertone, just a touch. But man, all these bright pinks and purples, I love how the tall phlox really create a big just pop of color out in the garden. 2 more it looks like. We've got the Heliopsis Touch of Blush, which is a beautiful variegated Heliopsis with the white foliage with the green lines. And then the foliage also has a little touch of blush pink on it, as the name implies. That's where that touch of blush is coming from. Beautiful golden flowers. Heliopsis is a very long blooming perennial in the garden as well. So just something, if you're looking to add those bright splashes of yellow, but with variegated foliage, Coreopsis Touch of Blush is really a very fun new plant in my opinion. And then last but not least is the Achillea Firefly Red Pop. And Red Pop features vibrant red flowers as they emerge. As we're seeing here on this particular one, we are getting a lot of fading going on the blooms that are older. And typically that's something that's not ideal. So that could be too partially because those blooms may have started in the greenhouse, where if they all came out naturally here in the landscape, we may not see quite that variation of color as what we're seeing here on Red Pop. But the thing I do like about it is it is a very beautiful red yarrow or Achillea, and great for those drought tolerant places in the garden. This isn't a perennial, but it's a shrub, so I might as well talk about it because it's here and it's a great plant, so I think we need to talk about it. It is the Ilex Glow Stick. So this is a Japanese holly. It'll only get about 1.5, maybe 2 foot wide by about 3 to 4 foot tall. It's an evergreen shrub and it's got a nice columnar habit. So in this garden bed, this is going to be about the only thing that we're going to see here in the winter, because the annuals will go away and the perennials will obviously die back. So we'll watch how this glow stick does in the garden. I'm loving that coloration. If you have any questions on any of these new perennials for 2025, please feel free to leave it in the comments below. Some of these we do have early release on, so you can check them out on our website, gardencrossings.com. The rest of them look for in 2025. Thanks for watching. I'm Heidi from Garden Crossings.